I made a video dispelling 5 common myths about casual Yu-Gi-Oh players, and I think that it's only fair that we make the same video about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh and its players. So competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players get a really bad rep just like casuals often do. You'll hear people say that they're tryhards or they're sheep or they're snobs, and none of those things are necessarily true. I mean, like I said in the last video, sometimes you'll meet people who are, like bad or maybe do fill a stereotype, but we should never put everybody like under one umbrella. So we're gonna go over 5 of the most common myths I hear about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh and the people who do it. And we're going to make sure that those things are not necessarily true. Myth number 1, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players are rich. If you go to any Yu-Gi-Oh event, I mean, you'll meet lots of competitive players of varying backgrounds. And yes, some of them, do have lots of disposable income or maybe just, very understanding parents. I don't know. But that's rarely are they rich. I mean, when you think about the demographic of people who play Yu-Gi-Oh, it's kind of mostly like young adults. So it's unlikely that anybody who's playing Yu-Gi-Oh has just like so much wealth that they can just buy whatever they want. I think that's not true because, oftentimes competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players, yes, they play expensive cards. For example, right now, Evenly Matched, Infinite Impermanence, Ash Blossom, Borlo Dragon, or Sky Striker Engage. These are expensive cards, and competitive players will be playing them to get an edge, but they still have to try to trade for them and buy them. You'll still see people trying to get as best of a deal as they can, for these cards. They're expensive and they hurt your wallet, especially the ones where you have to have like a playset of them just to compete. The thing is, nobody wants to have to buy these cards, and that's why everybody tries to trade when they can, or, get a good deal when they can. The thing is too though, they're getting these cards because this is a passion. So I think something that people oftentimes forget when they say, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh is so expensive and people who spend money on it are crazy, it's just cardboard. But that can be said of like a lot of hobbies. People who collect anything, models or gaming or whatever, it's gonna get expensive. If you play sports, you have to get sports equipment, you have to travel, it costs lots of money. If you collect figures or anything like that, you'll know that a lot of times the rarest of any type of collection is gonna cost you money. So for these people, it might just be that cards are the passion and winning is the passion. And as we all know, like you can play with rogue decks, you can use, budget replacements to cards, but at the end of the day, oftentimes you kind of gotta be the genuine article. So that means that you need to have the expensive cards. And if you're taking this seriously and it's something that you want to win at, which is the case for many competitive players, then you're just going to have to shell out the money. It doesn't mean that that comes easily to you, but it means that you take this seriously enough and you care enough about it to spend that money, get the cards, and compete to the best of your ability. Myth number 2, all competitive players are these rude pricks or snobs. Now, I know that, Yu-Gi-Oh has its full range of kind of like, annoying people to deal with, but that doesn't apply only to competitive players, and it often doesn't really apply to anybody. Yes, you will meet some sour lemons in Yu-Gi-Oh. There are people who are very rude, very impatient, they're snobby, they try to shark you, all these different things. But at the same time, that kind of comes with any territory. And also, those people tend to still be rare. When I go to events, whether it's a regional, whether it's a YCS, I rarely have a bad experience with somebody in a round. There are people who might be a little bit moody, but usually I only have maybe one person out of the maybe 8 or 9 rounds at an event who just, was a bother or I had some type of a hassle with. And I think that the same can be said for everyone. It's rare that you'll just go to an event and every single person you meet is just, rude and grumpy and just has nothing good to say and they're snobs. Now, I get it. There are people who've had 1 or 2 bad experiences and they kind of project it onto everybody. Yu-Gi-Oh has thieves. Yu-Gi-Oh has rule sharks. Yu-Gi-Oh has scammers. Yu-Gi-Oh has cheaters. They exist. I'm not gonna pretend that they don't. But, you can find those in competitive players, you can find them in casual players, but the most important thing to keep in mind is that they are still the minority in this community. It's not such a bad place that everybody is horrible. And I think a big problem too is that a lot of people will mistake, seriousness and wanting to win and wanting to uphold the rules and play properly with somebody being, a bit of a jerk. Because yes, people are gonna maybe have to egg you on when you're slow playing to get you to play properly or call a judge when a ruling is incorrect. That doesn't mean that they're being a bad person, it just means that they're trying to play the game properly. So that's something to keep in mind. Myth number 3, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players are just cheaters and rule sharks. Like I said before, you'll find some of these people. I mean, events do have people who are just out to slow play, people who are out to, draw extra cards, stack decks, shark you, whatever. But like I said before also, they do tend to be the minority. Competitive players, if they have any amount of integrity at all, are trying to win without these means. Yes, you will hear of instances where somebody does some sleight of hand or, there's some crazy thing about somebody cheated, whatever. But there's a reason why those instances get a lot of attention. It's because they're generally the exception to the rule. For the most part, people are playing on the up and up, and that's just kind of how it is. Also, that's not something that's limited to competitive players. You will meet, lots of casual players or whatever who do the same thing. I mean, like, cheating is not something that's limited to somebody who takes the game seriously. I mean, there are people who just play with their friends and cheat, and, that's still cheating, so it's not something that only applies here. That said, though, I think that to assume that, everybody who plays a meta deck or everybody who goes to tournaments is just going to cheat you and they're just out to trick you, that's taking a really negative mindset into an event and into the community, and it really does more harm than good to go around spreading this lie, telling somebody who wants to get into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, oh, it's just full of scammers and rule sharks and cheaters and stackers, because it's not true. So, definitely observe carefully. You'll notice that all of those types of things are the minority. They don't actually happen all that much, and that's a good thing. Myth 4 is that competitive players have no creativity. This is a big one because a lot of times you'll hear people say like, oh, meta sheep, they're just playing the same thing. They're just playing the same deck as everybody else. They have no creativity. The deck is what does the winning. It's not the player's skill. They're just doing the same thing as everybody else. That's boring. Not the case. I mean, creativity, if anything, is kind of the centerpiece of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you're in a world where, everyone's playing a lot of times the same deck. That one person who thinks of an interesting tech card or a new interaction or just a new way to approach like a situation or a matchup, those are oftentimes the people who win. And when you're a competitive player, your goal is to study and try to really get as much knowledge as you can of these decks so that you can find these little cracks, these little innovations. The goal is to push the game further in your favor. So while it might seem like, yes, everyone's playing the same deck, it's all about those small tech cards, those minute differences between decks. And what you'll oftentimes find is that even in an event where everyone's playing the same deck, a lot of times the better players will still edge it out in the end. You'll see a lot of the same names getting regional tops and YCS tops over and over because there is skill involved. And as far as, playing the same general deck recipe is concerned, it just makes perfect sense. If you're playing in a competitive event that you traveled to and paid for, why would you not use the deck that gives you the best chance of winning? It might seem boring or it might seem samey, but you're not at locals, you're not at like somewhere just with your friends where you're just trying to, experiment with a lot of different decks and just have a lot of, shenanigans happen. It's serious. You want to win. I mean, you invested money into this and time into this, so you have to play some of the established, norms that are strongest in the game right now. I think that there's no shame in that. That's just called playing to win. And the last myth about competitive players and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they don't have any fun. So you'll hear people say, like, yes, they're sheep, or yes, they're tryhards, or they're just cheaters, and they're not having fun, they don't actually like Yu-Gi-Oh! No, because for some people, fun comes from strategies. Fun comes from, commitment, passion, playtesting, and pushing the game really far and trying to win. I, for example, actually really enjoy the rush of playing against a good player. I mean, I like intense, close matches. That's exhilarating for me, and I think for a lot of players that's the same way. The fun for them comes from winning. I think that to say that, these people aren't having fun because they win or they're being a tryhard is usually just an excuse for some inadequacy or some saltiness, like, oh, well, they won with the best deck, so, it wasn't really legit, and they're just not having fun, they're just a tryhard. No, for some people, playing those decks, winning in that high intensity, high pressure environment is the fun of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I totally get it. I mean, I've felt that rush before. I've talked to people who, that's really kind of what drives them to play. The idea of traveling, that's fun. The idea of competing, the idea of winning, being better than the next person at a game that is fundamentally a one-on-one competition. It's a fight. You should want to win. And if you enjoy winning, then all the better. Yes, you'll meet some people who might seem like, maybe they don't care. I've met some people who I kind of feel like, it doesn't seem like you like Yu-Gi-Oh! Enough. You just complain so much about it or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it really applies to everyone. So yes, I think that competitive players do still have fun with the game. If they truly hated it, they wouldn't be playing it. And that's it for the video. So those are 5 myths about competitive players and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! That I just thought we should talk about and debunk. Let me know down in the comments, what are some other myths about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh that you think maybe need to be debunked here? Because they're really fun to talk about, and I think a lot of people just have the wrong idea. Also, be sure to check out my video I made about competitive versus casual Yu-Gi-Oh! Some, myths about casual Yu-Gi-Oh players that I think get thrown around a little bit too much. Anyway, that's it for the video, so give it a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, help me get to 100,000 subscribers, and also check me out at Nationals, I'll be there too. Alright, it's gonna be it. I will see you guys in the next video.